Rose asks, what SaaS companies are most commonly pitched or used by e-commerce brands that are actually adding no real or measurable value, but everybody seems to fall for it?
Say something bad.
Say something bad?
Jesus, that's a good question and like a harsh question.
Do we have lawyers on retainer?
Yeah, there's so much software like that. It really
once you get into that enterprise software world, it's like how badly can we rip off companies?
Yes, where they're like, call us to find out pricing. It means
the worst.
We are going to try and fuck you as bad as we can.
Exactly. Okay, creative tactics to circumvent highly regulated businesses like cannabis, gambling, sexual wellness, etc.
Oh my God. Or they'll be like, tell the UPS guy to deliver it in the back of the house. And I'm like, how do you think this works? Do you think I call the...
Let me just go back to my group chat with him.
Yeah, there's thousands of packages. You live in like, wherever you live. How do I know you're UPS guy? Like, do you think this is how the world works still? Yeah, sure, no problem. Tell your bank account guy to just send it into my other account, not this one. Nick, the first decade in e-commerce was all about new customer acquisition through channels like Facebook and Google and YouTube. The next decade of e-commerce is going to be about customer retention. And there's this amazing company called Tandem. And what they do is they create this infrastructure so that your Shopify brand you can have branded credit cards that your customers use. And the coolest part about this is that it really reduces your processing costs. Instead of paying 3% to process a credit card, you pay less than 1%. It increases your lifetime value and unlocks a lot of ways to really promote loyalty with your best customers. To learn more, go to buytandem.com/limited. That's buytandem, TANDYM.com/limited. Nick, it is season 7, episode 1. We have gone as long as this season will make it as long as Star Trek: The Next Generation and Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, both of which got to 7 seasons. I can't believe we got here.
I know, it's pretty fun. I guess we did it all 2023. When did we start this? 2022? Or did we start in 2023?
No, we definitely didn't start this year. I think we might have even started 2 years ago. Is that possible?
Yeah. Well, now it's 2024.
Yes, now it's 2024. Okay, yes. Well, we started this has been a while. And we've had some great guests on.
Yeah, we have.
And I really enjoyed...
Who's been your favorite?
The first episode with Ben from True Classic Teas was my favorite episode still.
I feel like that was like... you know how Harvard has like classes they put online?
Yeah.
That to me felt like a Harvard level class of e-commerce.
I do think, I know we're going to get into this episode in a bit. I do think that a business idea, I was recently toying around with this business idea, or I was thinking about it. I texted myself about it to like remember it, which is someone needs to create like, how there's like vocational schools, like mechanic schools, and all that kind of stuff. I don't want like a 4-year university. If I'm 18 years old, I don't want a 4-year university for computer. Not everything needs to take 4 years. Like why does political science take 4 years and computer science and biology? How is that human or music? How is that possible? I was thinking like someone should open up a vocational school for like, you're going to be trained to make a lot of money. And like, maybe it's a year and a half. But it's not 8 weeks of like, software engineering and you're done. Now you're a software engineer. You're going to be a shitty software engineer and you're going to work at Google. Give me 3 months on e-commerce. Give me, 6 months on software engineering or a year on software. Teach me a vocation so that when I'm done with this, I have a really good understanding of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would have been episode, the first class of like how to run this kind of stuff.
Yeah, fully agreed. I also really enjoyed Ty Haney. I thought that was just, as a fan of the brand, I know you are too. It was cool to hear the backstory and what happens. I hope that story one day gets made into a Netflix movie.
Yeah, that's, I feel like we've been lucky enough to have a bunch of people who are really genuinely honest with us.
Yeah.
In part because like we can sniff out bullshit, in part because that like we self-select for that. And like Ty was that way where she's like, look, I had a tough relationship with the chairman of our board.
Right.
Ben was that way, telling us all of his numbers. Even on the last time we had him on, he's like, this is how much we did in November. This is how much we did on Black Friday. So it is really refreshing to see that. Yeah.
Another cool highlight was when we had Harley on, and we just had a bunch of ideas for product innovation on Shopify.
Yeah.
And then within 2 weeks,
they rolled out with a bunch of them.
Yeah. It's not like they were planning to, they were just live.
That was insane. I couldn't believe like the cohort analysis. He's like, when people saw, when I saw it on there, I was like, you did this? Like you went back and actually did this? That was amazing. Who's your dream guest for e-commerce?
dream guest.
And assume it's not Jeff. Let's say it's Jeff Bezos is number one. Who's number two?
Well, I think one that I think we'll probably get is Ryan from Jolie, just because of how fast that thing has grown.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another dream guest for e-commerce. Actually, who's yours?
Possibly Andrew from Klaviyo. Or like, I'd love someone who's like, hey, I'm in the weeds and I've seen this work for brands and this hasn't worked for brands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think he might do that, but like, it's been a long time since he's been in the weeds at Klaviyo. Maybe, is it Jeremy from Sunlane?
Yeah.
Maybe Jeremy from Jimmy. I'm sorry. Yeah. Maybe, Beller from Postscript. Like, like one of these guys who's like, yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's like, this is what I've seen work and this is what I haven't seen work.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think also, it would be cool to see, more of on the creator side of the brands. I think that would be cool to get like a CMO level role from a more celebrity side brand. Another one would be, trying to get like even like a CFO's perspective on e-commerce. I think that would be a cool one to bring in as well.
Yeah. We had that great conversation with Cody where like talking about where do you put in human resource, like, people who work in the marketing department, are they marketing expenses or not? And I always love conversations like that because everyone makes their own judgment and they're like, this is why I do it. And sometimes it's incentive based and sometimes it's just like, this is where we think it fits.
It would also be fun if we did a debate, if we got, if we had like Cody and then a senior level person from like Estee Lauder or L'Oreal or one of these legacy beauty brands. And we almost like set up somewhat of a debate, because I'm sure they would have differences in opinion and how they go about marketing or advertising or whatever it is. Yeah. I think it could be cool to see the dichotomy.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. For this episode, we're doing a Q&A. We got a bunch of questions from our Slack community, which is, several thousand people strong.
Yeah, I'm in it limitedsupplypod.com.
And so we got a bunch of questions coming through Slack and I think possibly through Twitter as well. And so we're going to run through a bunch of, Slack user community and Twitter Q&As that we've got.
Amazing. We've got thousands of people now who are active on Slack. So I've got some questions that I picked here and we're just going to get right into it. Okay. So first question comes from Rose. Rose asks, what SaaS companies are most commonly pitched or used by e-commerce brands that are actually adding no real or measurable value, but everybody seems to fall for it?
That's a great question. Jesus, that's a good question and like a harsh question.
Do we have lawyers on retainer?
I will say this. Let me tell you SaaS brands that I don't love.
Okay.
And one is Recharge. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people use Recharge for subscriptions, and for a long time, it was the only option available on Shopify for subscriptions. It was like Recharge and Bolt, and Recharge's integration was much better. But like, it is not. When I used Recharge, it was really tough. It wasn't great. And when I had a conversation like we had with Harley here, talking about Recharge with executives at Recharge, and I was like, here are obvious product features you should have, and they were like, maybe you shouldn't use Recharge anymore. And I was like, I fucking hate you guys.
Yeah.
And like, I've never mended that bridge, and so I'm not a big fan of that team. And so I'm always like a fan of every other subscription platform. I think I think you might be in one of them. I'm not an investor in any. You're in two of them.
Yeah.
I really like Loop. I'm not an investor in any. Let me be clear. I don't have an advisor in any.
That guy's a beast.
Yeah. This guy who runs Loop,
I think.
Yeah. If you want him to build out something, it'd be like that Harley thing where they're like, okay,
not only that, he'll come fly to you.
Yeah.
Spend a day with you. Learn what you want and then have it done by the time you wake up.
Yeah. And he'll fly from India and then fix it over here wherever you are. And then on his flight back, he will personally build it so that it's done by the time he lands. So I really like that ferociousness.
Yeah.
The other things that I don't love, and I hate to mention these because I think you might be an investor in them, but I'm going to mention them anyway. One is like co-op commerce, or like, that thing where you're like, okay, you can share customers at the end of this. I don't think that any of those things work or add value. And I've heard them say that they add value, so I could be entirely wrong. And I've never been associated with a brand that's been using it, I think. But I don't think those things work.
Okay.
But hopefully I'm wrong. If you're an investor, are you an investor?
Now that they're on a CPA based model, it's worked much better.
Okay, they're on a CPA. Before they were on a CPM based model.
Correct.
And it didn't work well.
it still worked well, but it's one of those things where like it's such a unique placement for ads. It really works best if you're a brand name brand. Like if you're not a brand, it's hard for somebody to see a lip balm and click it and get excited. But if it's like, Miracle Balm is right there and you just purchase from Caraway, you might see that and it gets you to click and eventually make a purchase.
Do you know what percent? Like, I think the one time somebody told me that like 10% of people who saw one of those things were active on the other site. I don't even know what the click-through rate is, but I'd be surprised if it was more than 2%.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. 2% sounds right, though.
Yeah, but like, I don't have anything against them, to be clear. I just don't think that it'll work, and I wouldn't use it. But like, you may be an investor, and other people may be using it, and maybe it does work. Yeah. Honestly, I've never heard people be like, "Wow, we're really growing our brand based on this type of share."
Yeah.
What are the other things? I'll give you one other thing that I don't think works, but this isn't really a SaaS company. It's like, those email shares where we're like, win $1,000, win $1,000, and 5 of brands will email all the customers. And as a brand, you're like, we did this once with Vogue, or not with Vogue. It was like with Cosmo magazine.
Yeah,
and they're like, yeah, we emailed our 2 million people, and 3 people signed up. And I'm like, who did you email? That like 3 people signed up. I don't think any of those things work. And I think there's some SaaS platforms that are geared towards that. And then I think there's a lot of SaaS companies that are that don't answer this question. Where commonly pitched or used. They're not commonly pitched or used, but they're just I'm sorry, they do add real value. They're far too expensive for what they're asking.
Yeah.
Okay, but you answer the question. Tell me what you think it is.
Yeah, I'll actually answer it the other way around. I'll say what I think is what you should really just focus on, I think, are the basics. Like, I think the basics are good for probably 90%.
This is why everyone likes you and nobody likes me. I'm saying like bad things about people and you're like, no, let me tell you the good guys. Oh, that's so easy. No, first you answer that question, but then I'm going to hold you to this. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire here. You have to say something bad about somebody, motherfucker.
All right. So I think, you should use the basics. And I also think that there are, you mentioned this recently on My First Million, a lot of these apps that exist are one Chat GPT update away from being cloned, and you don't ever have to pay for it again. Or some guy in India is going to create the next version of Okendo and clone it, and it's going to work perfectly fine.
And it'll be $20 a month.
Yeah,
and he'll be
$20 a year.
Yeah, and he'll be exactly. And I don't know why India. If I were in India, I would have an army of Indians just cloning every Shopify app that comes out.
Yeah. So I think like you should have obviously you'll use Shopify most likely. You got to have something for email. You need to have something for reviews. Subscription if you have it. And that's honestly pretty much all you need. Like you'll use Google Analytics, or you can use something like Peel if you want something easy. That's pretty much all you need to get started. And then as you grow, depending on what you need, I think the most important thing is, for example, Cody was talking about House Analytics or House, which is some analytics platform. If you go to their site, it's like the logos that are featured on the site are like, Ritual or Sonos or FanDuel. These are huge brands. And so I think it's important to make sure that the softwares that you choose or the companies you work with are working with a similar size brand to you, not just that you're aspiring to be like them and end up working with them.
Such a good point.
Because you end up paying a lot more. I'm not saying anything bad about House. I've never used it. But generally, you end up paying a lot more. And, if you're a $10 million business among a customer base of $100 million brands, you're just never going to get the attention.
And the features might just not be made for you.
Exactly.
Like they're like, I need a finance dashboard. And you're like, I don't need a finance dashboard. Yeah. I need to understand what Facebook ad is working.
Yeah.
Okay. And so who should you use for like a refer a friend? Like, what's a good software for that?
For refer a friend?
Yeah. There's Friend Buy, I think there's one.
Yeah. There's like Friend Buy, there's Talkable. Honestly, there's two that I would use, which are better. One is Social Snowball. I think they just do a better job of refer a friend. And for them, it's more of they're an affiliate platform. So this is just a feature of an affiliate platform. The other one, which is probably not as good of a fit for refer a friend, but can do it, is Superfiliate. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
But Superfiliate you would generally use with more like creators or influencers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use Talkable and Native, and I thought it was great, but I also thought it was really like that was one thing where I was like, okay, I need where's the guy who's cloned this and it costs $50 a month? Like, why am I paying this?
There also has to be like a good structure for a friend. It can't just be, give me $5 and I'll give $5. Like there's got to be, there's this credit card company called X or X1, and they do something where it's like if I text you my link and you sign up, I now get 10x the points for the next 30 days. And so there's like some incentive, or Dropbox I think was like, you get extra storage for free. So it's like there's got to be something of real tangible value that I actually want, not just another $5.
Yes. Yeah, it is like at Native, we had 4% of our new customer revenue came from like refer a friend, and there was a lot of fraud in there as well, which we didn't really care that much about. I think it is like there's only one company that's done refer a friend really well in the history of refer a friend, and that's been Dropbox, which was refer a friend.
I think Uber storage. Too.
What did Uber do?
Uber, man, Uber's deal was something like, damn, I don't even remember. I want to say it was something where it's like you give $25 and you get $25. Okay. Like it was just at the time too, when they were doing it, that's like 3 rides.
Yeah. So I remember those days where I'd take an Uber pool and no one would come in and it'd be $4.
Yeah. I used to have, there was this guy in India who would sell, like you could tell him your Uber referral code. He would run Google AdWords ads in third world countries that have Uber. They would use my code. So I would pay, $4 for every use and I'd get 25 back.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow, that is great. There was some guy that's really smart and like, hustling. I love that. There was a guy who bought a billboard in San Francisco. And it's like, if you're buying a Tesla, use my code. I'll give you half back or something.
Oh, wow.
Because it'd be like, you'd get $1,000 for referring smart. You. And I was like, look at this guy. He bought a billboard to advertise his referral code.
Good for him.
Okay. Name a piece of software that you think is adding no real measurable value, but is commonly pitched.
Oh, man.
Say something bad.
Say something bad
about it. Could be anybody. You could say something bad about.
Okay, I'll
we used to shit on Yapo a lot. I feel like no one shits on them anymore, and I'm not sure. Maybe they've changed their practices, which is great. Give me a company where you're like, you know what, I use this and I didn't have a great experience.
Yeah, I think honestly, the influencer platforms, and not even just one specific. I think most of them, they charge you, $30,000 a year to basically look at a directory of Instagram handles and look at follower growth and whether or not those followers are real. And then if you want to add campaign management on top of that, that's another few $1,000s.
What's an example of one of these platforms?
Oh man, you're getting deep.
Yeah. Give me a name.
All right. Let's see.
You can't be Barack Obama and just say nice things about people.
Yeah, all right. There's one called like IZEA, IZEA, and I think that it might actually be San Francisco based.
Okay.
Or Upfluence, or there's a number of these guys.
Okay.
But the problem is like, I remember we inquired last year for one of them, and it was like you have to get platform access for a 12-month minimum, 12-month contract. You have to pay up front or pay quarterly. And it's like $30,000 a year. And then you log in. And this is also now Facebook doesn't actually, the API that they used to use from Facebook, which would funnel the data in, is no longer available. So it's literally just a directory of Instagram handles. And I just think it's scummy, like charging $30,000 for basically a glorified scraper.
Yeah.
And Asana. That's essentially what it is. A scraper and Asana.
Yeah.
And I think you'd be better off hiring somebody from Oceans for a few grand a month, and they could run this entire program, and you wouldn't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So overall, I think the answer to Rose's question is there aren't that many commonly pitched e-commerce SaaS companies in e-commerce that add no value. Like the reality is, most companies will add some value. Otherwise, no one's paying for it. Like these are small business. This isn't like, a huge business that doesn't look at their P&L, like, that doesn't recognize $1,000 expense. It's a small business that's run by a family or an individual, and that's his livelihood. And so they're like, this software doesn't make sense. I'm going to stop using it. And so I think that there aren't a lot of these. I think the ones we've mentioned are ones that we probably just had tougher experiences with. And to be clear, with Co-op Commerce, I haven't even had that experience. I just haven't seen good things, or I haven't heard good things about it. But you mentioned it's CPEA based now, and that's a very different model than it used to be.
Yeah, cool. Shout out to Rose. Rose is very smart. All right, next question.
Tough question.
Yeah, that was a good question. Next question comes from French, and the question is essentially, there has to be some balance between customer service, customer experience, and, not adhering to every single complaint from a customer. I think mainly in the context of, you ship a product out, you ship an order out, somebody says, hey, my order didn't arrive, or it arrived broken, or it's damaged, or, it was never delivered. But, on the brand side, you have the photo from FedEx that shows the box right in front of their door, or that it was delivered, or that somebody's name was received upon delivery. And the question is essentially,
I love that photo from FedEx so much, by the way. I wish UPS would do it.
That is
just
the
like,
best.
Hey, motherfucker, here it is.
We see it. So the question is essentially, how do you balance this as a brand? Do you send a replacement when somebody says my deodorant didn't arrive? Do you just send a replacement immediately? when you send somebody product and they say, oh, I don't really like the scent, I just want a refund. Like, how do you handle that? Is there a certain limit to where you decide, this is too much, or we're crossing a line?
It is tough to set those customer service policies. And it's even tougher to be manually doing them yourself because it's your money and you're like, this little bitch just cost me $12. So I understand exactly where French is coming from. We would do this, which is, well, let me offer you a couple of solutions. One is I've seen brands sort of say, hey, look, here's an insurance product. If you, cost $1 to insure this shipment, if you choose not to insure the shipment, we're not responsible.
Oh, you know what? Going back to the first question, route. I put route on that list. That's who rips people off.
That's a great point. I just don't see. I never hear about them anymore. I feel like that business, nobody's talking about that business anymore.
After the episode where we exploited route for suing people, they paid for an article like hyping their exec team up. It was a sponsored article. They bought an article for like PR to go against what we were saying. But anyways, I feel like nobody's talked about it. Maybe people have moved off.
Yeah, that's why I say that like the most commonly pitched things, going back to question one, is like it doesn't exist for a lot, like, this isn't an environment where things that don't work get to live. They generally die because people are smart here. There's a lot of dollars at stake, small businesses, so they care about those dollars. So I feel like, and I have no idea how Route's doing or has done, but I feel like generally there isn't that much SaaS that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That people are pitching. Okay. So what we would do at Native is we would say, hey, we'll send you a replacement, but this is your exchange. We'd say you can get one free return or exchange. So basically, you don't like the scent? Okay, great. We're going to replace the scent, but that's it. Now you don't have the ability to return it any longer. You've had an exchange, and that's the end of it.
Once per order?
Once per customer.
Per customer. So lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they were like, look, yes, it was lifetime, but I'll get look, if you had purchased 20 deodorants and your third deodorant and your 20th deodorant you didn't like, we weren't going to be like, that's it. You used it on the third. We're like, you got this tag on, we use this, you got a tag in our customer service software that said super. And once you were a super customer, which means you'd spent a certain amount of money, we were ready to, make exceptions to every rule that we had to say, okay, great. Let's make sure that this customer gets satisfied because they've spent so much with us. They've been so loyal. We have to show loyalty to them. We weren't going to let a customer buy one, say, I don't like the scent, send them an exchange and be like, I don't like this scent, send me another exchange. Like you weren't going to get three. And for deodorants, it wasn't even worth shipping it back. You've used it. We're going to throw it away. So we're just like, here's the new one. Now you have two and they're both like the second one was on us, but that's your return or exchange. You can't do that anymore. Similarly, if someone's like, I got my package, but I don't like it says delivered, but I don't have it. We're like, we'll send you one free one. That's also your exchange. You now have gotten two packages from us. And that's it. Like, they both say that if it said the package wasn't delivered, if it got lost in the mail and said,
different story.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it hasn't been moving for 60 days. Right. That's not on you. That's on us. We're shipping you a free package. That's not your exchange. If it's been delivered, that's it. It's been delivered. We'll still send you one free exchange, but then that's the end of the conversation. And we'll say, hey, is there a better address we can ship this to? Do you have a business address? Do you have something that so porch pirates can't get to it? Like, what else can we do here?
Yeah.
And, people will be like, I was at home all day. I watched my Ring, all that kind of stuff. And we're like, we get it. But what, the other hard part, and I hate getting customer service because I get so riled up about it. People will be like, it's that I was at home all day. I didn't see it. And I'm like, well, Or they'll be like, tell the UPS guy to deliver it in the back of the house. And I'm like, how do you think this works? Do you think I call
Let me just go back to my group chat with him.
Yeah, there's thousands of packages. You live in like, wherever you live. How do I know you're UPS guy? Like, do you think this is how the world works still? Yeah, sure, no problem. Tell your bank account guy to just send it into my other account, not this one. Call your credit card company and do that really quickly. This isn't how the fucking world works, you crazy son of a bitch. Of course I can't tell this guy anything. It's productized you. The productized delivery. That's why it's so cheap to deliver stuff. If you want it in special spots, you got to do something special. Yeah. Give the guy a gift, put a little note on there.
Yeah, put a sign outside of your front door.
Yeah, right. And then when the holiday season comes around, you probably want to tip your delivery guy because you want special things out of it.
Exactly.
And so, we did for one free return, one free exchange, and we'd be like, hey, this is it. But and then if you did this on the second order as well, we're like, no, we're enforcing this policy.
Yeah.
If you did it on the fifth order, we're like, okay, great. You've been a loyal customer. We made money from you. We're happy to make exceptions.
Right.
What do you think of that?
Would you track, so as you're doing this, I think I would say follow a similar rule. Look at the order behavior, the order patterns. Would you ever track profit per customer and decide okay, if we are, if let's say, somebody's made 20 orders and so we're, over $100 in profit from the single customer, we're okay to send something free versus okay, this person's placed 3 orders and this is the second time they're complaining. We haven't turned a profit on them necessarily, so we're not going to honor this.
Good question. A little bit, but I think the answer was just it was overall revenue. It's hard to do that with individual orders because you can't be okay, this person's purchased this item, and this item. Customer service, this person's profitable. Send them. It's a little bit hard. So we were just look, if you spend a certain amount with us, we'd tag you as a super customer and we'd ship you stuff. But it was but you're right. If there were, if you would purchase 4 times from us and had 3 problems, you might be tagged as a super customer if you spent enough. And then we'd be like, fuck. So there was a little bit of we did one of the things that we'd always try and do is empower our customer service people to make the right decision. I was always whatever you think is right is right. Try and put yourself in those shoes. Yeah. Not just don't ask me, but also you can make here are the general parameters. You can make exceptions to the rule. I remember telling our customer service team, I was British ETA, which was this terrorist organization in England, once tried to kill Margaret Thatcher by blowing up a bridge. Mm-hmm. And they missed and the bridge blew up, but she wasn't on it or they weren't able to blow it up. I forgot what it was. And she was safely returned to 10 Downing. And they called up 10 Downing and they're like, you were lucky. She didn't, Margaret Thatcher didn't die. You were lucky. You have to be lucky every time. We have to be lucky only once.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, we have to be lucky every single time. You guys have to make the right decision every single time because our brand is you're the forward-facing element of our brand. Every time you interact with somebody, it is an interaction where you could damage our brand. And you should think about that. And you should try not to do things. Even when people are assholes to us, we can't be assholes back to them. When they're outrageous, we have to be calm. And so I tried to empower them and say, hey, look, you can make the right decision and you can do what you think is right. Think about if you were a third party hearing this and you're this person that had 3 problems over 3 orders and wants 3 exchanges, probably people would agree that, hey, you don't have to constantly cater to them.
Yeah.
But this person's ordered 10 times, probably want to bend over backwards to make sure that we do something excellent for them.
Totally. Going back to the first question, I thought of another software that is not worth the hype, and that is Narvar.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now we're talking. I take back all of the comments I made about all of the brands I said.
Yeah.
No, I'd keep all of them, actually. I take it back. But yes, Narvar. Oh, my God. Could some guy in India charge $25 a month and do what Narvar does for $50,000 a year?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And in fact, Narvar is a free item on ShipStation. You want a branded tracking page? You can get that on ShipStation for free.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what kind of cojones these guys have to be charging so much money.
Yeah.
And look, I get it. J. Crew uses them.
Sure.
I understand J. Crew. I don't know who's making those decisions. And the person who's making those decisions, he cares about uptime. He cares about looking good in front of his boss.
Privacy.
He doesn't care about $50,000. I don't even know, he says privacy, but he doesn't know what that means. And I don't know what that means in this instance either. This is a $10 a month item.
Yeah.
So much software should be $10 a month. And Narvar will be how many... how many orders do you have? I was like, what the fuck do you care how many orders I have? You're providing a tracking link.
$6 to you in server costs. Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
$6.
And if I had the difference between a guy doing 10 orders and 1 billion orders is $6.
Yeah.
So, I'm between, don't worry about it. Add $6 to me and I can do 1 billion orders. Yeah. And they're like, oh no, if you're doing 10,000, it's way more expensive than if you're doing 9,000. I was like, why? Where is this coming from? And there's so much software like that. I don't understand it. Like, there's so much software like that. It really,
once you get into that enterprise software world, it's like, how badly can we rip off companies?
Yes. Where they're like, call us to find out pricing. It means
the worst.
We are going to try and fuck you as bad as we can.
Exactly.
And we're going to have a Christmas party based on your selling to you. People over here are going to be high five. It's like, that episode, it's that scene from like Wolf of Wall Street where the guy sells some guy on penny, Jordan Belfort sells him on penny stocks. And everybody in the office is like, crazy. Oh my God, you just fucked this guy. That's what's happening at Narvar
every day.
Yeah. I don't understand how that's like the software is so expensive. I don't understand how they get away with it.
Yeah.
I feel like that now there may be competitors and stuff.
Yeah, but now there's definitely better companies. We use Malomo, which is like a fraction of the price.
And it's the same thing. It's a brand tracking
It's actually better. Like the design is better. The UX is better. The setup takes 5 minutes.
How much should I expect to pay for Malomo?
I don't know. It's not that much.
Okay.
It's always been the go-to choice because of pricing.
Yeah, anytime I see, you're doing this many orders, like, what happened with ShipStation, actually? ShipStation used to be priced per seat. It used to be like, $39, like $20 a seat. So you could be doing a lot of orders and be paying them $200 a month. Yeah. Now they're like, how many orders do you do? And you're like, why does it matter? And they're like, how many API requests do you want? And you're like, first, why would that even matter? Like, what is an API request cost you a lot of money all of a sudden? Like,
here, take 2 cents.
Yeah. Like, what is this? And they're like, so now they're like, if you're doing more than 30, this is 30,000 orders. If you're paying for 31,000, it's a lot more money. And you're like, why?
The crazy thing is like so order-based pricing is essentially the same, like one layer beneath that is, pricing based on API calls or API requests. 99% of companies don't charge that way. Like I think Twitter is one of the first big companies I've seen that now does that with apps that use the Twitter API. Meanwhile, these guys were just cake and profit.
Yeah.
It costs the same amount of money.
Yes.
And I think if a company were to try to do that scale-based pricing, it would be fair if it was based off of your brand's profit. But to take, even $300 in software costs, that's coming out of your bottom line. Your net.
Sure.
That's scandalous.
Yeah. And it's just like so much for a small amount of order where they're like, we want to, like everyone wants their hand in your pocket, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's hard.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, this season's sponsor is Tandem. I know you use Tandem. I'm not really familiar with them. Can you tell me what they do?
Yeah, Tandem's amazing. Have you ever gone into a store and gotten an offer to get their credit card? Usually it's because the store benefits from lower processing fees, as well as higher AOV, higher customer loyalty. That cohort of users also has a higher repeat purchase rate. And so Tandem essentially allows any Shopify brand to build their own branded credit card system. So typically, if you wanted to do this, but you didn't have infrastructure like Tandem, you had to really be a company that spits out over $1 billion a year in revenue. That's the only way these big banks would allow you to build this branded credit card system. One of the women who built this for Capital One started Tandem, and she is now building this infrastructure so that anybody on Shopify, whether you're a cookware brand, a cleaning brand, a beauty brand, you can have your own branded credit card. And you can actually learn more by going to buytandem.com/limited. That's TANDYM, buytandem.com/limited.
Okay, next question. How hard was it to formulate a new scent for native deodorant, and how long did the process from idea to the actual product take? My current perfumer...
Sorry, let me go back to that last question. The way you were thinking about it as like bottom profit, I always think about it as like a printer and ink. Okay. And I'm always like, all of these guys are like selling the printer for $10. You're like, buy this software. It's so free. It's so good. And then all of a sudden the ink, they're like, you're over 1,000 orders. 25,000, like 25,000x the price. And you're like, where did this come from? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. How hard was it to formulate?
How hard is it to formulate from idea to the actual product? My current perfumer is saying it takes around 6 to 12 months, but I'm not sure if I can wait that long. I don't know as much as you, but I know that that's wrong. 6 to 12 months.
Is whoever your current perfumer is insane. Are you crazy? Also, 6 to 12 minutes.
Yeah. It's as simple as finding the scent from a perfume house, which there's probably 3 that are the big ones. And then you go to your contract manufacturer, or you send them the perfume. They already have the formulation. They mix it together. They send you a sample. It should be door to door. Idea to sample should be no more than 3 weeks. 4 weeks.
That's right. Yes, that is the correct answer. And there's different ways of doing it. Some can be, hey, you send your fragrance to my contract manufacturer. They'll add the fragrance in and send me samples. And some contract manufacturers will take the lead on doing that. And some fragrance houses will say, send me your bulk product. Send me unscented native deodorant. I will add the fragrance in myself and send it to you. And that way there's no middleman here. I'll get, I'll test out 50 fragrances. I'll add a little bit to all of the bulk and send it to you.
Interesting.
And so there's both ways of doing it. 6 to 12 months is insane. I would say it's probably a problem with your perfumer. It's almost certainly a problem with your perfumer. There was one instance where we were trying to elevate our scents at Native. So we tried to hire a real perfumer that was, everyone's like, use the fragrance house who's selling the fragrance and then use your contract manufacturer. And that's how you'll get it door to door in 3 weeks. Yeah. And that's the right answer. I said 6 to 12 minutes because it's really just like adding the perfume or fragrance or essential oils to your bulk product, mixing it and letting it go. That's why it's so fast. We tried to hire this one, fancy perfumer who was like, I make very sophisticated scents. And I was like, great, how much do you charge? And she's like, anytime you order your fragrance, you have to pay me a little bit of money. So she was just like this SaaS model, which is the more orders you do of the fragrance, the more I get paid. And I was like, look, I'm happy to pay you $3,000, $4,000, whatever it is to make a fragrance for us. But we're doing a lot of volume here.
It's basically work for hire.
Yeah, we're not exactly. We're not paying you a little bit for every we don't need another person with their hand that gets that gets a little bit of revenue every time we get a sale.
Right.
So tell me your rate. $5,000 for a scent. Okay, $10,000 for a set I can live with. We're at scale. I can pay you $10,000. And she's like, no, I need some every time you order. I was like, you have any idea how many we're selling here? This is impossible. Yeah. And so it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, we'll never talk to these people again.
Between this perfumer, Narvar, and Route, you're going to be making no money.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah. I really don't like company. I don't love businesses where it's pay for every single order you have. Yeah. And there's, USPS is a fair advantage where I'm like, I get it. But Narvar, I don't get. You shouldn't get software where I'm like, you went from 30 to 40,000 orders. We're increasing your price 25% when the software is the same cost.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. What are some creative tactics that highly regulated businesses can use to circumvent marketing restrictions?
Sorry, just before we get to this question, I apologize. How do you do it for long weekend?
That exact way. Okay, so we get a bunch of samples of the scents. Actually, in this case, Mary Berry helps us filter through a lot of the BS. We probably get a handful, and then if those are good, then Mary just sends us samples.
Perfect. Yeah, makes a ton of sense. That's exactly what happened with us.
Yeah. Following in your footsteps. Yeah. Okay, creative tactics to circumvent highly regulated businesses like cannabis, gambling, sexual wellness, etc.
Oh my God.
I think one thing I've seen is, it's basically... So there's a sexual wellness brand I invested in, and for them, they could never really advertise until they launched their body care line. So they launched body wash and moisturizer, I think, or body oil, and that they were able to advertise, and then they could sell their lubes and condoms and all that stuff off the back of that. But and then on the cannabis side, we've done a couple cannabis launches. One of them, there's actually an e-commerce platform. I forget the name of it, but it's you can essentially set up a Shopify-like store, only in California though, where you can set up your pixels and you can set up events and things like that. But you still can't advertise that. You have to basically advertise to some piece of content, get first-party data, and then use that info to sell them the product.
And so what does that mean? If you're, so one is, can you talk about the name of the sexual wellness brand, or you can't?
Yeah, Mod.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Mod. M-A-U-D-E.
Got it. And then what, let's say it's a cannabis brand. Can I say, here's why cannabis is great for people who are suffering from dementia. And then I have an article and I send people up from, I can advertise on Facebook to that article. Is that correct or not correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You just have to be careful in your words. I know Breeze does not, I don't think they mention cannabis on their site. I think they talk about euphoric effects or something. They just have a secondary version of the site. We launched this brand for Red Antler a few years ago, which was also a cannabis brand focused on sleep. And it was the same thing. We had to make duplicate versions of the site sometimes not even hard coding the pages. You just had to take screenshots of what would be text and implement it so that it doesn't get crawled and read. It's honestly like in a perfect world.
So it's a screenshot that you put up instead of text so that no one could crawl
so they can crawl it, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Although I don't know if that'll still work given today's advancements, but the right way to do it is sort of what like telemedicine has done, which is there's a universal certification, which is called Legit Script. That's like online pharmacy certification. And once you have Legit Script certification, most of the ad platforms need to see that, and then they allow you to advertise. Obviously, not making sure you're not exploiting the use case of Viagra or whatever.
Yeah.
But that is how it should be done also, I think, in cannabis, which is there should be some sort of thing you go through, even for gambling. I mean, gambling, I think, has looser rules on running ads, but there should be some sort of a certification you get, which allows you almost like a driver's test to then run the ads. Otherwise, you just have, like right now, there's a bunch of cannabis brands that run ads in the wrong way. And, the product might not be legit, but the customer doesn't know because they're still seeing the ad.
That's interesting. I saw one, and I'm not sure if this is real. I saw it on Twitter. Somebody recently posted this, and they're like, here's an ad. Here's one way to get around it, which was they cut up broccoli, and then they showed this device on how to roll broccoli into like basically a joint.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't illegal, I guess, because it was broccoli, although I'm not sure. Like, I just saw it on Twitter, so I don't know if that's actually a legitimate ad. I don't have a good answer to this. That was a really good answer. I don't have anything to add.
I will say for creative inspiration on how to go about these regulated industries, I think TikTok is the number one place to go because, you can't say the words like, you can't say kill yourself on TikTok. You can't say, you just can't say words. Yeah. Like you'll just immediately get your video taken down.
Yeah.
And so the visuals they use and even the nick, they don't say kill yourself. They say unalive, for example.
Wow.
And so like the words they use and the visuals they use. Are pretty like, cutting edge, you could say, on TikTok that could be applied elsewhere.
That's interesting. Okay. I'll let me add two things then. One is the one guy who's figured it out is Isaac from Mini Katana, who's selling swords. And he's just like, I do so much organic content and it's so viral that I can get around the marketing restrictions. But I will say this as someone who's been in one of these regulated industries in the past, if you have not launched a business, don't do a regulated industry. Please it is so like it's hard enough. This battle is already hard enough.
Yeah.
It's 10 times harder if you have to fight Facebook, not 10 times, 1,000 times harder if you have to fight Facebook, your bank, Twitter, Google, Shopify, Stripe. Like it's almost not like you are not going to win so many battles. You have to win so many battles to get this right. If you haven't done this already, don't do this. Even alcohol, I think, is an industry that people shouldn't get into. Like there's so many great wine. Like wine is such a perfect space for e-commerce and nobody can get it right because it's so expensive to comply. With a hard liquor, it's impossible. Like it's just too many uphill battles to make this thing work.
Yeah. Fully agreed. All right, on to the next one.
Yes.
Okay. As the founder of a direct-to-consumer brand starting from scratch, navigating the 0 to 1 path, would you advise focusing on organic posting or investing in paid ads from the get-go? Additionally, if leaning towards the latter, should I handle it myself or consider hiring somebody given our limited resources?
Okay. Starting a direct-to-consumer brand from scratch, organic posting is... Okay, so let's think about what organic posting here is like posting on Instagram, posting on Facebook,
Reels,
Twitter,
TikTok,
all that
probably
kind of
some level of influencer seeding, basically things that are non-paid ads.
Yeah, this is such an uphill battle to get organic posting when you have a brand that like no one recognizes and first, no one's following you. How are you going to get any sales? No one's following you. So like your first 100 people may see your brand but not purchase. Maybe the first 10,000 people may see the brand and not purchase. And it's going to take you a long time to go from 0 to 1,000 on Instagram. It's not going to take you a day. It's going to take you months.
Yeah.
And so I think that I like the idea of organic posting. It's like, I would say, look, if you're like very resource constrained and you're getting into the business, probably there's nothing else you can do. Like you can go to Product Hunt, you can try and go to Reddit and get into like communities like that. Like one of my friends launched this leather goods company and he was really active in a blog called, not a blog, but like a forum called Style Forum, where people would talk about like, the best handbag to carry or the best watch or stuff like that. And he'd be like, oh, we're using we're using, vegetable tan leather and we're getting it from here. So people get excited about his product and he would get some sales that way. And that was an interesting way of like getting sales.
Yeah.
But it was a long-term game, right? When he started with the idea, he started posting about it. And then when he started selling, you could sell a few units there. I think that you got to try paid early because you want to see if you can scale that. And that's how you get from $5 to $10 million. Very few people are able to get to $10 million without some type of paid advertising being the backbone of that growth. But if you're organic, if you're constrained by resources, you can do organic. You just have to be clever about it. It cannot just be, I just posted on Instagram and Reels. It has to be, I was on Reddit forums. I created Reddit threads that were super interesting. I was on Style Forum or forums like that. Like if you're, for instance, there's a company called Rome.travel, which is a graduate of YC, and they help you book travel on points. And they're almost like Expedia, but they show you point results. I'd be on Flyer Talk and forums about travel if I were launching something like that. That's good organic posting. Just Instagram Reels, it won't be enough.
Yeah. I would say, I actually think I would recommend getting your first 50,000, if not 100,000 of revenue organically. Because I think it forces you to create content and put it out on like Reels, TikTok, and Shorts. I think it also helps you understand like what type of messaging are you, one, like who's your customer, who's buying versus who you think is your customer. Because those are, if you're starting from scratch, those are always completely different people. I think it forces you to be creative about how you are messaging and how you are, how you're even setting things up. For example, if you're given a card with $100,000 and you're just launching, you might be eager to turn the ads on and start running traffic to your site, but your site forgets to mention, what is the actual benefit of the product?
Great point.
When does it arrive? And so I think it's worth getting the first chunk of sales organically. And then I think once you figure out what works, it's worth putting paid behind that. And I say this with the regret of sometimes even spending too early and then later thinking, I should have taken this $20,000 and actually just put it toward getting better content made for organic or seeding it to influencers or trying to figure out what are like the broke man's way of getting top of funnel before turning the ads on.
I guess the question is like, isn't the organic posting going to lead to the same issues of like, oh, you forgot to put like important feature benefits of your product. You forgot to put reviews, all that kind of stuff. Is it going to be the same, but it's going to take longer, especially at $50,000 to $100,000?
Yeah, I think it would take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We have a brand that we quietly launched and it took us about 2 months to hit that 50,000 just from organic. Whereas. And
you're a pro. Right? Like you live. So like if you're,
but I wouldn't say I was a pro with organic before we started this.
Okay.
And that was honestly like the biggest slap in the face to me was, wow, I actually know nothing about the 0 to 1.
Okay. Yeah.
This is I genuinely think the 0 to 1 is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Once you get your first $100,000 in sales, it's basically 10 times easier than the first 100,000.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part because you have to figure out not only like, sure, you might have a great product, but you're like, okay, but which specific audience, I'm not just selling to women. Am I selling to women who are 24 to 36? Am I selling to women who are 46 to 74? You got to get very specific. What is the reason they're going to buy my product versus a competitor? And I think it's worth figuring those things out without spending money on paid.
Yeah, that's fair. I like, when we launched Native, and this was, a long time ago, we launched on Product Hunt.
Yeah.
And we were subscription only. And like the first the first dozen comments were, I would buy this if this wasn't a subscription. And so then I was like, okay, let me take off the subscription. And that's what made the business work.
Yeah.
So, there is a lot of truth to what you said. I would still do paid first. All that said, I would still do paid first.
How would you go about like your first creative test? Would you just come up with a bunch of ideas, throw them against the wall and see what sticks?
Yeah. Like, that's exactly what I do. Okay. Like, for instance, if I was launching an athletic greens competitor, I would like try and copy I'd say, which one of their ads has been around for a really long time? Can I make something like this? Is it cheap to make something like this? what are the claims that they're making that are interesting? Are they talking about, energy? Are they talking about weight loss? Are they if I'm launching, so I'd say like, what are the other things that people are doing in this space that are successful? Otherwise I would just say, hey, here, otherwise I would just try and say, okay, this is what I think people are going to care about.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of brands launch and they'll even make like claims that they probably shouldn't make, but then they'll be like, okay, we found out that these claims are important. We'll go get tested and make sure that we can make those claims. And I can understand that as well a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. Next question comes from, is it Matthias? Matthias. With more direct sales channels such as TikTok shops, do you believe websites will become less important in the future?
It's a good question.
That is a good question.
I think, so I just went to speak at the TikTok identity offsite in New York. And we were talking a lot about TikTok shops.
Uh-huh.
And by identity, it's like, tagging and pixel events, that type of identity. Not they're going to look at all of us. But TikTok shops.
That they don't have offsites for.
Yeah. TikTok shops have blown up. And there's actually somebody we both know who has consistently been one of the top 5 TikTok shop brands.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And
the doctor.
Yep. And, I've bought a couple things from TikTok shop myself because the flow of buying is so easy. I mean, you see an insanely compelling video, and then it's like literally 2 clicks and then you double tap for Apple Pay and the product is on its way. TikTok has things on its back end that sort of make sure it's a legit product. Like, when we uploaded Long Weekend, you have to submit your ingredients panel. You have to submit your certifications. Like, it's not like they're just shilling a bunch of stuff.
Yep. And you got to provide a tracking number right away, like in the next couple of days. Otherwise, they're like, we're going to cancel this. We're going to let the customer cancel this order.
Exactly. I do think, though, I don't think websites are going to be less important. I do think that, this single product purchase experience will be congruent, though. So I think, just like TikTok shops sort of focus entirely on one product, feed-based advertising is the online alternative to that, which is I think a lot of advertising will just move toward becoming more feed-based, just like a DPA or Google Shopping, where you have to be better at optimizing what that specific creative is. And also when people get to that page, you have to make sure they can fully understand and learn what you're selling and all that.
Yeah, okay. So let me say 2 things about it. Well, let me ask one question. Do you know anyone whose business is they do more than 10% of their business through Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok shops?
No, not personally.
Okay. Me neither. But I will say that they're better than I thought they would be.
Agreed.
I thought they would be like garbage.
TikTok shop is way better than what Facebook rolled out.
How so?
The user experience is significantly better.
Okay.
And I think this is also their V1. Like, I think they're about to roll out I know they're about to roll out a bunch of updates that I think are going to make the shops much better and more like product-focused landing pages versus just, 5 images, a description, and a buy button.
Yeah. So my answer, I'm going to disagree with you and say, yes, websites will become less important, but it's going to be so far from now that it doesn't matter. Like, the answer is it doesn't matter to you right now. But I think 5 years from now, Facebook will have Facebook should either buy Shopify, which is quite a call, or build their own Shopify. And they've got to build reviews, for instance. I don't understand how Facebook shop doesn't automatically import reviews.
TikTok does.
Yeah. Google does as well.
I don't know if they import, but they have their own reviews platform, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. The problem is if you're Jones Road Beauty or, you have so many good reviews in so many different places. You want to be like, look, I don't want to start from scratch on my Facebook shop and drive people to Facebook where I've got 0 reviews or, 1 1-star review and 5 5-star reviews, because that also looks shitty. Instead, look at my 40,000 reviews that I want to send you.
Yeah.
So I think that ultimately, what's crazy is I believe that the iOS rollout made Facebook's information so gray that Facebook decided to roll out their own shop, and it will make Facebook build their own version of Shopify and Amazon product page so that people can build really beautiful pages inside Facebook to get sales.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so I think the answer is yes, but not for a long time.
Yeah. The other thing TikTok Shop does, which I think is genius, is when you upload a product, you have to answer so many little questions. You know, is this organic? Is it vegan? Is it safe for this? Is it safe for that? Does it do this? And all these little questions, I think, are going to build them the world's greatest model of who to serve which ads to.
Because if someone's like, I only buy vegan stuff.
Yeah, it's like, TikTok, know that now. Facebook doesn't really collect any of that. They're just like, sync your Shopify feed and that's it. But TikTok asks so many questions that they'll be able to identify patterns. Another software that came to mind as we got to add it to the list at the beginning. Ready?
Yeah.
Bazaar Voice.
Oh God. God. Yeah.
As you were talking about review syncing, that came to mind.
Yes. I do think that like Facebook doesn't focus on Facebook shops, or I feel like there isn't. I don't hear a lot of people.
Yeah, there was a little focus on it, and then I think it went away.
Yeah, and I think someone inside Facebook should be empowered to be like, look, we're building Facebook shops into a real platform. We're going to make it, I hate to say it, a genuine competitor to Shopify, but a genuine competitor to Shopify. Like, you will want to drive ads to your Facebook shop instead of your website, because we have everything that your website offers. We have a lot more data that we can collect here, and a lot more data we can provide, a lot more data such that we can make better decisions for your advertising in the future. Like, think about all the guys who we've chatted with that spent 80% of their ad budget on Meta.
Yeah.
I bet they'd be willing to say, okay, I'll make my Shopify site less important and my Facebook site more important if you can make that 80%, 10% more efficient.
Totally.
And I bet they could do that if they were like, most of your transactions happen through Shop.
Yeah.
And so, they should build out a desktop version. They should import reviews. They should be able to make, Amazon lets you make this, it's called like an A+ product page where you have a bunch of like different information about your product after like the top part. You should have all of that. Like, give me like right on average, this shop, Facebook could say on average, this shop provides a tracking number within 24 hours.
Totally.
To get to even earn you more credibility.
85% of customers are satisfied.
Yes. Yeah. And so like, it could be a third party that offers a lot more credibility because a lot of people who are buying on direct to consumer are like, I don't trust direct to consumer. I don't know. I've been burned before. Is my credit card information going to get stolen? All that kind of stuff. On Facebook, that's not going to happen, but it'd be great if you could do a lot more. But like, subscriptions, for instance, you can't do that on Facebook Shop as far as I'm aware. Right. Like, they have to build out a subscription platform.
Too, you can't do it.
So like, that's a lot of, like, you want to make it so that when I send out an email, I can probably send them to my Facebook Shop if that's going to be fast. Like, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of lift that they need to do in order to make their product good enough such that websites matter less, but I think they can do it and I think they should do it.
Agreed. Fully agreed. All right. Next question.
Yes.
All right. What is the best strategy for brands that don't solve a obvious problem, but rather just promote a lifestyle? What's the best way to market it in terms of creatives? For example, luxury dress wear.
So is this like if you're doing you're a stylist, you're a coach, think of it as weight loss?
Maybe think of it as like a high-end, dress shirt company that somebody's launching.
That don't solve a problem, but rather just promote a lifestyle. Okay, so this is still a physical product company.
Yeah.
I think like Magic Spoon used to do these amazing ads where they were like, here's us and here's them. And they'd be like, thumbs up, thumbs down, and be like, we got 1 gram of carbs. They have 40 grams of carbs, 0 sugar, 400 grams of sugar. Like, I thought those were really good ads. I think that's hard because if you're comparing yourself to a competitor, probably not necessarily the most premium thing in the world. I think they weren't like, look, we're trying to go for premium. They're like, we're trying to go for healthy. I don't know how you do. Like, is it, if you're the dress shirt competitor, is it you showing Robert, what's that guy's last name? Herjavec from Shark Tank? Herjavec getting off of a private jet, wearing one of those sharp dress shirts and a tie with a really getting into a black, Maybach. Is that it?
Yeah.
What do you do? Tell me.
I think it's, I think like the question, I think this person knows the answer, which is that essentially you've got to make it cool. You've got to make it cool enough for somebody to say, I really want to go get that. Apparel is that's probably one of the reasons I never really invest in apparel companies is you don't really know, like it's either going to be a huge win or it's going to be a flop. And it really depends on who, unless it's like performance wear, it depends on, is this cool? Like is Robert Herjavec going to wear this? Is somebody like him going to wear it over everything else? And so I think with this, you sort of have to figure out how it's cool. Aritzia does a really good job of this. Like, they know how to make it, how to create that FOMO, but with the influencers they seed product to, or like Warby Parker just did a collaboration with Emma Chamberlain, and that's going to bring a bunch of people in and think, oh, that's awesome. I may not even need another pair of glasses, but because Emma's a part of this, I want to now be a part of it. And essentially it comes down to like top of funnel that creates FOMO or makes something look cool.
I think that I agree with you in somewhat, and I disagree with you. I like the Emma Chamberlain Warby Parker thing. I saw signs for it, and I was like, where is this coming from? Warby Parker is based on the idea that they get good frames for a reasonable price. What is Emma Chamberlain doing here? Is she going to make the frames different? Like, I don't understand that collaboration very well. Yeah. But I do think you're right. Like for Mad Happy, that's great. I love that. I don't own anything from Mad Happy, but every time I see it, I'm like, wow, this is an awesome brand. I usually see it because you're wearing it, frankly. And I'm like, this is a great brand. And I don't know how they consistently make it exciting and fun. Is it like limited edition drops to create FOMO? Is it just promoting it with the right influencers? Is it getting people like you to be super excited about it? Like people who are optimistic to be like, tell me, like, what is it there? Like, how did you discover
I think it is that. Like, one brand that comes to mind is, have you heard of a brand called Siegelman Stable?
No.
So Siegelman Stable started by this guy named Max Siegelman. He I think he just started it as like a side hustle when COVID was going on. And he, I think it's his family's ranch or family-owned ranch, or he's involved in the ranch. He basically sent a bunch of these Siegelman Stable hats. They're just really nice, high-end looking hats to NBA players during the bubble. And he just shipped it to the bubble address and put their name on it. It got to their hotel rooms. They all just started wearing it. All of a sudden, people were like, oh my God, LeBron's wearing this, or A$AP Rocky's wearing this. I want to wear this. And he would purposely sell out of SKUs, like when the drops would happen. And I think it is that, slow, like you have to anticipate for the next year and a half, it's going to be a slow growth where you forcefully sell out, you make fewer SKUs. It's not something my brain is wired to figure out how to do, or probably even has the patience, but I always have a hats off, hat tip to those people who do figure that out.
That is really good. I feel like, I think of another example like Sporty and Rich, which remember that, like, they've done a good job of like being cool. I'm not sure how, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I heard Allbirds when they launched, they sent their shoes, their tree wool shoes, to like a bunch of startup CEOs to get them to wear it, hoping that it would trickle down to like, the C-suite and like the rank and file at startups. And I heard like Patagonia did the same thing with like their vests. They like gave it to like Facebook execs, and a bunch of people were like, oh, if Mark Zuckerberg's wearing this, maybe it's awesome. Although I'm not sure if Zuck was the guy wearing it. And so I think that is a really interesting, that's a great business. Like that's a great way to seed your product and make it interesting. It is certainly a slow burn rather than going back to paid ads, which is like, I want revenue right now. That's a great example. Yeah, I do think you need to make it interesting and fun. And does that moment, like, I guess, let me ask another question. Does that moment pass really quickly? Like, aren't there all, this is the hard part for me with apparel brands. I feel like they're all hot until they're not, and then they're dead. But I don't know. There's some, like Aloe doesn't seem to be going that direction. It seems to be exciting still.
Yeah, I think it comes back to, again, can you figure out how to make it cool? Like, can you get the stylish people wearing it again or talking about it again? Like, like Crocs is a good example of this, right? Like Crocs was really big, then it sort of like went under the radar, and then as of last year or 2 years ago, they're back in a huge way. And it's because of the collabs they're doing. And I would love to do like an episode where we brainstorm ideas for how to do top of funnel, because I think that most people, when they hear top of funnel, they think, okay, we got to start running TV or podcast, or we need to throw up out of home. But the best top of funnel is, I think, collabs like this, like Warby Parker bringing Emma Chamberlain in, or Emma Chamberlain doing Aritzia, or Post Malone doing something with Crocs. Like there's no better top of funnel, or the Skinny Confidential doing a product with some brand. Like that is the best top of funnel. Even it might not convert on that exact product,
But it'll make your brand,
when, you're coming to Thanksgiving shopping and you see Jolie, you're like, wait a second, I learned about this because Jolie did a collab with this company.
Yeah, it makes your brand relevant for sure. Like I remember Crocs. For me, they came back, and now I own a bunch of pairs of Crocs, and I love them.
Yeah.
Do you own any Crocs?
No, I've never. Oh my god,
it's the best shoe in the whole world. Like, I probably own 4 or 5 pairs now.
Wow,
I've got them all in the last 5 months. They're incredible.
You put them in sport mode.
They did this collaboration with KFC. Where they had like little chicken wings hanging off the front, and they actually smelled like chicken wings too. And I was like, I need to get a pair of these, and they sold out in 2 seconds. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So I do think that I get where you're coming from collabs. I think there are misses with collabs. I think that Emma Chamberlain and Warby Parker might be one of them for me because I'm just like, I understand what Warby Parker, like
it's a very niche audience.
Yeah, maybe it's a very niche audience. I think there are opportunities to do a lot of collaborations. And I think that, Emma Chamberlain can be like, hey, we're making a, like Erewhon always does a smoothie that's like, this is a Kim Kardashian smoothie. It's $24. Yeah. And you're like, well, let's see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Is there a firm for this smoothie here? But yes, I do think that is a way to make your brand really relevant.
Yeah. Drink now, pay later.
Yeah. Do you know where Erewhon's name comes from?
No.
I heard it's like, what is it called? It's an acronym or not an acronym. What is it when like, you can rearrange the letters and it's like nowhere? It actually is nowhere spelled in different letters.
Interesting.
But it's not like backwards. It's not like a palindrome or whatever, but whatever it is where you like rearrange the letters, it's nowhere.
That's amazing.
Okay, I think we got time for one more question. Let me go to this one, which is, if you were to start an e-commerce business today, what industry would you go to? And how much money do you think it'll take to go from 0 to 1 to validate the market? Oh,
man. That's a good question. I would probably... Industry, I'm not 100% sure. I would make sure of a few things. I think I'd make sure there's enough margin to spend money up front, get a customer. There's enough margin there's some sort of repeat purchase, ideally a cadence, so a subscription. And something that has like a direct effect on your life. A direct benefit on your life. So not something where it's like it, makes your room smell better, but maybe something that, changes your life for the better.
I love that. I love the margin thing. Absolutely. Like you should anticipate that you're going to spend 40% on Facebook ads or marketing. I shouldn't say just Facebook ads, but on marketing. Does that margin structure fit in? And like, I would do that margin structure first and be like, what has 40% margins where I can ship this thing, still advertise and make money on it?
Yeah.
So I would do that calculation right out of the gate. And I think that's really important. And you hit the nail on its head there. I agree with the second thing you said as well, which is repeat purchase. Like one of the very few businesses that are a one-time purchase are worth high multiples of their EBITDA. Yeah. Like Casper, hardware, like things that you purchase once and only once, you have to acquire so many customers all the time that it almost never makes sense you're like, okay, great. Most people have a Casper mattress and there's 5 competitors. Now what do I do? I love businesses with repeat purchase rate, and that doesn't necessarily mean it has to, Jolie's a great example of that. Yeah. Hardware that does have a repeat purchase rate. Jasper air filters, hardware that does have a repeat purchase rate. Deodorant, repeat purchase rate. It doesn't have to be personal care, beauty. It can be other things that have a repeat purchase rate. Filter Baby. In fact, I think the Filter Babies and Jolies of the world may be even better. Than the other ones, because there's like hardware attached to it.
Totally.
And so you're more bought into that lifestyle. But I do think that a repeat purchase rate is necessary. The other thing that I think about is really like, this is hard and it'll vary for everybody. It's like you said, it has to have a direct effect on your life. For me, it's like, what do you want to see? There's with deodorant, I was like, you know what? I wish there was a product that stood for this.
Yeah.
Athletic Greens. I love that idea. Like, this is a product that you want to drink in the morning to make yourself feel healthier and start the day off in a foot that's like, I'm not going to eat ice cream all day.
Right.
I'm not going to splurge. I'm going to do things that are healthy for my body. And I'm starting that way off in a way that like tastes good and is reasonable and starts right away. Think about things that that would like affect your life in that way. And that's what I'd encourage you to do.
Yeah. I think I would still do a household cleaning brand.
Household cleaning brand. Yeah. Will Long Weekend launch cleaning products?
No.
How come?
I don't know. I feel like it'd be a weird product extension.
Yeah. There aren't that many people who go from personal care to to cleaning products. Although like Method is definitely an example of something that's on like hand soap and deodorant and body wash and stuff like that. It's not impossible.
Yeah, no, it's not impossible.
But like, P&G, they never did that. I would like, Tide never launched, the pods for their dishwasher.
Right.
Instead, they had Cascade do that. Different brand. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all the time we've got for episode 1 of season 7. I really love doing these Q&As.
Same.
They're so much fun.
I think one thing we should try to do too is we should source a really good question for a future episode and make the entire episode figuring that question out. So like an example is, how does a brand build top of funnel?
Yes.
That is not the conventional what you would read when you search on Google. And we both do research and come up with ideas and then come and record an episode.
I'm game. You tweet it out, I'll retweet it, and let's get it going.
Okay,
let's source the question.
Awesome.
That's a wrap for episode 1. Thanks so much for joining.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise in CPG, retail, and e-commerce.
And if you enjoyed this episode, then why not share it with a friend? And be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on.